So moving ahead with our next session on impact of AI in the ever-changing CX landscape. Introducing our thought leader, Mr. Aashish Muttreja, Head of Solution Engineering at Oracle CX Cloud. Mr. Muttreja is a part of a team defining data strategies for brand across BFSI, retail, healthcare, auto, and ITES sectors. With expertise in CX technology, solutioning, MarTech strategy, customer data platforms, and growth marketing. He drives revenue generation and business support programs. A huge round of applause for Mr. Ashish Muttreja.
Thank you very much. I mean, even I can't, define myself as good as he did. Um, okay, moving on. This is a slide which I really love. I mean, I love this quote because all of us, very, very smart people sitting in this room, we should all be, believing that even if we don't believe in God, we should believe in data. And I mean, in my view, we should have a God of data. And all of us should be praying that we get the insights which we want, which is coming out of the data. Now, the topic which I had today, just while the technology is kind of defeating me, sorry. Okay, so the topic which I had today was mainly about how it is the kind of impact which AI is making in CX, and that CX is also ever changing. Now, we've heard through the day, right? AI and CX are the buzzwords. I mean, they are. I mean, everybody needs to kind of accept it that it is a fact. We need to accept it. We need to, take an action on that. Every organization needs to imbibe it. But how much do we need to act on it? That is something which we need to which going to be covering in this session. What we'll be doing is we'll be giving a little oracle flavor to it, that what is the reality of AI and how it actually starts impacting that overall customer journey when we're looking at CX. Now, before I go ahead, first thing which I would like to talk about is, let's just get a customer's view, right? I mean, there are two players in this entire ecosystem. One is a customer and then the organization. What does really a customer want? Okay. Now, a customer wants a digital trust. If it is AI, if it is CX, it's for us to figure out, right? All the smart people in this room, we need to figure this out. What does really a customer want? They want a digital trust. You would have remembered in your childhood, we used to go to this shop where we used to buy stuff. And we used to like that going to that place because that was the place which was like our, sort of like our comfort, right? We will always go back and buy our grocery from that place. We will only go to that same shop to buy our dress for our school. We will always buy our shoes from Liberty because that's what our dads used to say, those shoes last for 6 months and that's my predictability around it. Now, all that, think about in the new age time, we are trying to do it in digital, right? A customer wants to have that kind of a trust whom I can buy it from. And there are a lot of powers which are coming in terms of enabling that trust. In the last session, we heard about that, how governing bodies are actually defining this, that what are the kind of guardrails they're putting in. I mean, there is a new Data Privacy Act, which, everybody is kind of now going through and figuring out that how do I kind of, maneuver myself into it. There are, their own laws which are coming from the platforms, like, you have the Googles and the Facebook who have their own governance around cookies. And the customer in themselves, they are educated enough, right? They are just going through learning. That's why I would always want to buy from the brand which I know about, right? I will want to one which I can trust. Now, on the other side is the organizations, right? I mean, they have actually managed to maneuver through this process. They have actually said that, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do, so that eventually the end goal is that they can do the most optimized selling. Now, what this optimized selling is, that I would want to sell to a customer and make the most out of that value of that one interaction which I'm having with the customer, right? Even if it is like the customer who comes to my website, even if they're anonymous, how can I make the most out of that interaction? That's the optimized selling. Now, in the center of it sits technology, right? What technology is eventually doing is, it is providing that process and scale. It is providing that within those guardrails, I have set up my process. Now, how do I actually make it expand? How do I actually make it, make it go to a certain scale so that I can keep doing, I have that repeatability, I keep doing this over and over again, and that too at a larger volumes, right? That's what technology does for you. Now, in this parlance, what does really technology is doing for providing that kind of an experiences? One side is data, right? I always say there was a time when data was a commodity. It is today a privilege. If you have data and you're not making use of that, if you're not getting insights out of that, I mean, you're doing a crime literally. Right? So we need, when we have that data, we need to get that level of intelligence. And now for that scale to come into AI, because it's not a human thing, you can't get that scale with few people. That's where AI comes in, right? So that's why in this entire scheme of things, when we want to achieve what a customer expects and try to do those in a larger volume in the scale, that's where we need AI. That's my view on this. Now let me just begin with giving you certain numbers. Now all of you would agree to it, but you will also say, okay, these are very large numbers, but think about it, that 99% of the consumers are more likely to shop with the brands that provide that personalized experience. I can bet you at least, again, more than 95% of it are part of this 91%. We will always go back, and especially, think about it from a digital parlance. When we go to a website, we are very, very wary of where do we buy from, where do we put our credit card number, where do we put our mobile number, where do we put our email ID. And we would want to go back to the brand which provides that kind of a trust to us, right? And now what AI is doing is, there is 30% of, AI technology likely, which is basically, ChatGPT will be able to resolve your problems and that too in an automated way and more efficient way, right? 30% of the customers say that, right? So eventually, AI is a reality. It will happen, right? Now, no matter how much we want to turn away from it, but that is something which is a fact. But what it really does is, it is going to grow and it is going to provide us that scale which we spoke about earlier, right? Now, let me give you an example, and this is a more ideal sort of like a experience which a customer would go. I have picked up a B2B scenario, but the similar thing can happen to in a B2C as well. What we're talking about is a chain of hospitals in US. They're called MedExcel, right? Now, they are actually in their growth phase. Now, what MedExcel does is, they've actually recently facing a lot of power outages, right? I mean, which can happen to all of us. And they're actually figuring out that, especially in this growth phase, how do I ensure that, that I get this optimum power because I can keep my operations running? Now, their CEO is very worried because he can't predict this business. Because of these outages, he can't really say that, how the operations are going. There is an experience on one side of it. The predictability of the business is the other side of it. So what he starts doing is, he starts chartering his people that, look and figure out that, if there are alternate solutions around that. Now, so this is where, their team actually comes across with this fictitious company called Supremo Power. Now what Supremo Power is, it's actually, it talks about that, what is the kind of performance they give, how more sustainable way they generate their power, how this power is consumed, what are the kind of uptimes they provide. Now, their COO, Jenny, actually comes across all this information. And this is more ideal for her, right? I mean, she's like, this is exactly what I was looking for. And she registers. Now, what happens in this is the way technology actually comes in, that she actually starts getting these personalized emails. I mean, that's very standard. But meanwhile, what is happening is back end, the technology is actually playing a big role here. And next day when she comes to work, she goes and she starts interacting with all her colleagues who are also tasked to do the same thing. They figure out that they will also kind of be contacted by Supremo Power. And that's the ABM which kind of comes in. Like, even without registering, even without, me going on the website, because my domain remains the same what Jenny did it, I'm getting that kind of a personalized experience, right? And then they start going through the entire, brochure. They kind of go through the entire experience. They go to the entire website and see what are the kind of services they're providing. Do they align with it? Can they provide that kind of a, the service which they need, the kind of power which they need, the requirement which they have? And then what they agree is, yes, we need to reach out to them. Now, because it's unanimously they've agreed and they've all been contacted, they go to a chatbot. Now, what a chatbot does is, this is more like an LLM-driven chatbot. It starts interacting with them, starts understanding what their requirement is, and automatically fixes a meeting with the sales agent, right? Now, let me tell you what is happening at the back end. Yeah? Back in the back end, all this information which is being gathered, all this digital body language of Jenny, all the colleagues, is all getting captured in what we call it as a data platform. All right. Now, what data platform is doing is it's accumulating all the previous transactional behavior. It is also accumulating all your online behavior, merging this into two, building an account profile, and churning out certain kind of an offer recommendations, right? And it is actually enabling what we call it as a account 360. Now, meanwhile, the sales guy who's sitting on the side, now he has all this information. He's collecting, so when he reaches, he actually gets a pop-up that there's a lead which has got generated. Now, this lead eventually, when it comes to him, it has its own AI-enabled lead score as well, right? So now what he does is he starts looking at the account level detail, and first lead level detail, and then he goes to the account level detail. He looks at what are the various contacts which are available in the account, what are the kind of opportunities which are already in play, who are the people I can reach out to, and while doing that, what in this case what the CRM is doing is it's very easily navigatable that where is that he needs to do and go what. That's what technology does, right? It gives you a certain kind of a recommendation. Now, when he comes to the next phase, he actually has this entire unique 360-degree view, not at the lead level as well, and also at the account level, right? And now what system is doing is the AI is actually recommending certain kind of an actions for this salesperson. How is that you can actually do certain things, including the task which he needs to do, because they were the ones who actually had a chatbot whom they used to kind of to have a scheduled meeting. So like chatbot is recommending now, Mr. Salesperson, now you need to start, connecting with them, and I can have like a video call which gets initiated, right? So system is actually what giving that kind of an intelligence to the salesperson to what is the next action which they need to do, and all that is easily findable, easily discoverable. Now, one of the key aspects of any power company would be the service which they provide, right? In this case, the service here is that once I have bought into the proposition, once I've actually bought into what they've actually bought, how is that, let's say tomorrow if there is an outage, how do they resolve that outage, right? So this is where the intelligence around the service agent also comes in, where a service agent gets to know, where actually an IoT device initiates that there is an outage. That actually creates a service request, which creates a work order for a service agent. Now, what a service agent is doing is, because there's a task which got assigned, he also gets an enabled route. It's more like a Uber, right? That you have a route plan where you know that this is the time when you'll go and go there to actually solve the problem, whatever is there. And in the meanwhile, this could be, I could have, as a service agent, could have multiple such places which I need to go to. And meanwhile, the customer on the other side, I'm at MedExcel and I'm sitting there as an admin, I get a notification that there is an outage which is which is happening because of this is the reason, and these are the parts which will be required for that. And meanwhile, while the service agent will be resolving this issue, this is the time he'll take to reach you, and this is the time he'll take to actually resolve that issue. Now, what it is doing is, system is actually doing the kind of task which what used to happen through a manual work, right? We used to call, when there was a time when service agent would call up, okay, sir, I'll take another 10 minutes to reach, where can you send me the location? He's sending the location, I'm outside, can you, whatever. And these are the parts who I've missed on getting these parts. Now here what system is doing is, one, it is actually automating that entire process, building a lot of intelligence into it, like a service agent when they're actually is trying to resolve the issue. Not everybody is perfect, right? And there could be a problem which could come up and says that I have I don't know how to resolve it. What system can do is actually raise what we call it as a similar SR, where they can actually go and say that what are the kind of knowledge articles which are available, where I can look at it and go through those steps to resolving that issue, right? So that's how it becomes more scalable. What system is doing is actually providing that kind of an intelligence, and now you can actually replicate that at a massive scale. So eventually what happens is, there is a marriage which happens, so MedXL meets Supremo Power. They agree on that this is the way we actually go on. Now when Supremo Powers this time meets the management team of MedXL, they've gone with a proposition which is more tailor-made, more suited for them. And this is coming again from the intelligence which is being brought in by the data platform, right? So they understand that, they are not somebody who will go as, like a one-time fees and a setup and whatever. They'll go pay more because it's a smaller organization which is in the growth phase. They recommend the pay-as-you-go kind of a model and, usage-based model to them, so that it's more suited for their financial needs. And that's where the agreement happens, and that's where the marriage happens. Now, what has happened now? How is this entire fairy tale of MedXL actually has come into it? Now, if you look at it right on the left is, it started with a need, right? Supremo picked up the signals and started engaging with them. Those signals could be somebody going on your website, somebody actually going and downloading a form, somebody who's, maybe initiating the call. Everything is a signal or a combination of that. What Supremo does is identifies the group who's trying to buy. And again, this is the crux here. It is not one individual. Who are the various people within that account who I need to reach out to? And start tailoring its messaging. When I say messaging, that messaging could be an inbound or it could be an outbound, right? It could be we reaching out to them or they reaching out to us. Similarly, while this is happening at the customer end, even at the sales team, who's actually will be contacting them, they are all well prepped that what has been the journey so far, what has been the overall digital body language of this group of people or this account, what is that they were looking for, what are the kind of product portfolios they have, so that when they're having that conversation, even that touch point is more meaningful, right? And then, the entire product maintenance, which is the core of this, which is the service, it's all invisible because it's all automated. It all automatically initiates by a device which is initiating an SR, and all coming to a work order, to an agent going and resolving it, where there is no person who's sitting on the MedXL side who's raising it that, and creating a hue and cry, my problems are not getting resolved. And that is when MedXL considers to buy their services. Now, this is an ideal customer's experience. Now, let's just quickly look at it. I'll build this up. What is the role which AI has played into this, right? It all started by finding the right prospect, right? When they actually come in, somebody was talking about that, you go to a website, you're all anonymous, right? Even at that point of time, how do I identify that this is the same person who's looking for? In that case, it was Jenny who was looking for, buying, let's say, who was looking for a service for their power requirements. But there's another person from the organization who reached out, but because there was a, account-based marketing which was running behind it, they knew even at the first touch point what they were looking for. And that's when the entire contact starts getting created, potential leads happen, and it moves into an MQL. The entire content and campaign creation, now this is all AI powered. Now this can be, one is that what contact on what campaign should I send out to, right? And then the content of that campaign itself, which is where GenAI comes in. Then the second part is where you have the automated lead scoring and qualification process. So where a lot of times when we meet the organizations, they say that, the biggest problem which we are trying to solve is the distance between marketing and sales. Because sales is saying that, you give us leads, they're not, they're right, they're not qualified enough. Marketing says that we generate a lot of leads, you're not doing justice to it. That's what technology can bridge the gap. What eventually will happen is that technology will automatically start building that kind of an intelligence to qualify those kind of an opportunities, qualify those kind of leads. So when this actually moves out to the sales team, they have more information, more intelligence around that. And similarly, when, these MQLs goes into SQLs and so on, eventually what will happen is that they know that, what is the conversation I need to have with my prospect, what is the kind of language which I need to build into, or what is the kind of product which they were looking for. So eventually, a lot of AI models have gone into creating this experience, and this is where what we saw that as Oracle actually comes into play. Is right from a marketing AI model, which is how do I actually intelligently maneuver a customer's experience in terms of putting them in a different kind of a workflow. What is the kind of recommended offer based on them or their lookalikes? What is the right time to send the communication? What is the right method of some kind of communication in terms of channel? Then going to the sales model, like where you bring your own model and you start building your own product recommendation. Then things around AI assisted duplication, because the data quality is again a big problem. Quoting and cost, the entire quote to cash process. And then service. I mean, we spoke about that. How can I identify a similar service? How can I provide a live knowledge article to an agent to resolve a certain kind of a problem? So, in the nutshell, what we're saying is that AI is a reality. It actually happens. What we're calling it till now is an ideal customer experience. That should be the right customer experience which you should be providing. And the same can be replicated in B2C as well, right? So with that, I would like to thank you all for your time, and hope to actually catch up with you all offline as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Ashish Muttreja, for sharing your thoughts on impact of Gen AI in the ever-changing CX landscape. To do the honors, I request Mr. Satish Krishnan, Head of CRM and Tech Support at Redbus, to please join us on the dais.